I'm free here on BBC Radio Cornwall. Tiffany Truscott with you. I've got to apologise to my guest, Vicky Jenner, because we've had a few technical issues this evening. But I think, Vicky, I fixed them. Evening.
Evening, well done. I think everyone listening has probably been party to a Zoom technical problem at some point this year, so not to worry.
I could hear myself back and I thought, is it just me? But no, it wasn't. But anyway, this is wonderful. It's just beautiful. So I think what we'll do, we'll pretend the last 10 minutes didn't happen and we'll start from the beginning. Now, you're here to talk about a 2-year heritage project you've been involved with the Institute of Cornish Studies, all about maritime churches. And one of my questions was, what people's idea of a maritime church is. And I think probably the most prominent one in my mind has got to be one that you are featuring, of course. It's in Winwallow at Gunwallow, Church Cove, right on the beach. But some of the churches you focus on are not necessarily right on the coast, are they? But they do have connections, I suppose, with being near the sea. Is that what you were looking at?
Completely right, Tiffany. Yeah, so I think the definition of a maritime church has really been one that we've questioned and we've explored throughout the project. Right at the beginning, we asked, what is a maritime church to you? And actually, a lot of people came back with, well, it's a church which identifies really strongly with its immediate environment, with its immediate seafaring narratives, and the community who has that really strong identity. So really, I think every church and every parish, it's always very much at the centre of the community, and I think that's the core definition of a maritime church today, really. It very much reflects the trade or the industry that's surrounding it.
And this particular project, you had funding for it, didn't you? So you were able to do a little bit more than you would do if it was just something you were undertaking yourselves, but you had to get the community involved, didn't you, as well? Especially you were asking a lot of some younger people locally, weren't you?
Well, we have indeed, yeah. And actually, I think the funding we managed to receive, so just to give a bit of context, back in 2018, I was a recent graduate from the Penryn campus, and I was working as an intern, actually, for the Cornish Audiovisual Archive with Dr. Gary Tregeger. And we had this idea, and actually it was Dr. Joe Ezra's great idea to pursue more around maritime church history and what these landmarks can tell us about seafaring narratives and about maritime history in Cornwall that we haven't looked at before. So we had this idea and we thought, why not go for National Heritage Lottery funding? So we went through the application process and we managed to get £40,000, which was such an achievement. And it was the first application I'd gone through, which meant it was really helpful for me, actually, as a recent graduate, to have that experience. So we managed to successfully get this funding. And then our ultimate goal was, as you just said, to bring in young people in the community, but also at the university, and also bring these two different societies together. So what we did, we partnered with our youth partner, which was the History Society, who were part of the Founders Next to Student Union, and they were absolutely excellent. And we have Charlotte Harries, who I was speaking to earlier, actually, because she's going to be talking as a keynote speaker on Thursday for our final event. And she was their representative, young person, absolutely fascinated by history, came from West Wales. So she really had this interest in sort of a Celtic link to do with Cornwall. And she brought all of this enthusiasm. And we then worked with their society to really focus on young people and provide them with skills and opportunities that they could then take on after they've graduated.
And so, as a project manager, I imagine that's quite a lot of plates to be juggling. It's quite a lot of plates in the air, isn't it? To do as well as the actual work. How 2 years probably seems a long time when you talk to people about it, but actually it's probably not, is it? When you're working with so many different people and then going to these places and filming and doing all those kind of things as well.
Completely, and it was meant to be 18 months to begin with, but it sort of thrived and it's really emerged and developed. And as you say, we've worked with so many great people, and so many different people in the community have have come out and offered their support. We have Terradress Archaeology Group. They were absolutely brilliant right at the beginning of the project as well, for really holding sessions with our students and giving them those archaeological skill sets that we couldn't get actually at the Penryn campus. And so they were filling in those gaps. And then, for instance, we've also partnered with the Church's Conservation Trust because they also sort of have ownership in and they're custodians of the St. Anthony of the Roseland Church. So they were really imperative to supporting us in the filming when we went over there and filmed that church for one of our episodes. So yes, as you say, it has been a bit of a juggling act, but the 18 months went really quickly, and then the pandemic hit. So of course, like everyone, we just had to adapt, and we had to push all of our great, amazing events. We had to postpone them and push them back. And it's quite sad because I don't think that some of them are ever really going to happen now, but perhaps in the future they could happen. But we've managed to adapt and do other things instead, such as all of the great digital stuff you can see on our website and the films, of course.
But as I say, a little bit disappointing. Did it mean that you had to stop doing the work, or were you able to carry on with some of the work at home and then have Zoom meetings with the young people you were working with and things during lockdowns?
Actually, I think everybody was extremely, very reactive and extremely good at just getting on with it. And I think a lot of people would be able to attest to this as well. We all went through the same thing of, we're stuck at home, we want to be proactive, we're really frustrated that we can't go out and do these amazing things that we've been looking forward to and planning. So instead we held a virtual lecture series right at the beginning. That was really fantastic. We had a whole week full of academics, experts, people from the community, folk singers. We had Harry Glasson, the amazing Harry Glasson, come on and do a concert for us. So we had so many great people support us, and actually through that virtual lecture series, which just took place in 1 week, we then made contacts with other academics and other people in the community, and Figurehead, the amazing all-female a cappella group, who then sang for us in our film series. So we managed to make it work, and I think that we did a really good job of that. I think a lot of the students and volunteers and sixth form students, of course, who then came out from woodwork and really wanted to get on board as well, they were all at home really creating quite creative content, really, and really evocative content. We had one GCSE student, for instance, Lucy Watley, who created this incredible poem about your favourite church, about Gunwellows Church Cove, and it is so amazing to hear. So we've for the film, we've put it to visuals and to really powerful music. So actually, it almost created a different form of creativity that we may not have got if we weren't all stuck at home and wanting to create more stuff.
So it's almost like they wanted something different to do while they were in lockdown that wasn't maybe their normal work. This was helping you with the research, and they wanted to kind of do something that wasn't, there was no pressure on them to do it, but they clearly enjoy it. And it just obviously shown the love that young people as well have of history as well, because you always think it's kind of older people that are only interested in our history, but that's, you're just proving that that's not the case at all.
I think that was the main thing. We wanted to try different and alternative methods. So the whole selling point was this is an exciting new history project. So this is why I was quite sad when the pandemic hit, because I was trying to really make it quite a different project. We had quite a few different academics involved who were really into kayaking and sailing and using outdoor pursuits as a methodology to see these landmarks, or the churches as landmarks from the sea. So getting the perspective from the water was really important for us. And we weren't then, of course, able to do that. We had a fantastic floating lecture all planned. But instead, it did mean that we had students and people living in Cornwall, all of the young community who were involved with the project, actually proactively and independently going out, sea swimming, free diving, and doing all of these things by themselves, and then sending back photographs and also adding all of their experiences into our blog section of the website, which is sort of really full to capacity now with lots of perspectives, which is really great. And yes, as you were saying, Tiffany, all of the young people were extremely proactive, and the main ideal, the main I'd say the main goal for the project was to make sure that we had a website with 10 case studies, so 10 churches that we had chosen, and making sure that we had profiles for each of those churches which spoke about and uncovered and shed light on all of these undisturbed histories around their maritime identities, around their architecture, their myths and legends, everything that sort of has been either forgotten or it's out there, but it's not all in one place. And so, yeah, all of these students sort of went and did this off their own back, and I'm very impressed with how much they've managed to do.
No, it just sounds incredible. And I've had a look at the map of the churches you chose to focus on as well. Probably one that most people will live near to, because you've kind of that real cross-section of them. So as you said, at the end of this project, you wanted to have the website, but did you always intend from the beginning to make a short series of films about it as well?
So probably not to the extent we have done. We actually had an idea that we would go off and do memory events and capture community stories, which we went off and did right at the beginning. We had a brilliant volunteer coordinator, Rebecca Orchard, who facilitated that for us with Gary. And they went out and they put together all of these great audio clips of people in the community talking about their connection and their identity with the local church. So that was the initial idea, but actually throughout the pandemic, we had this idea, well, we can't do what we wanted to do with all of these events. We have a bit of money, and with these heritage projects, you want to use all the money up that's in the pot. So we thought, why not employ a local producer, a local filmmaker, to come on board. We'll use all of the research, this fantastic research that we have, and we'll put it into a really professional film that will really engage young people, and not even young people, but everybody. And I think it's a really nice legacy, actually. It's a gorgeous legacy to have for the project, and because it's done in such a professional way with a local guy, Kyle Richardson, who owns his own company called Down South Media, because we have that community and we're sort of facilitating these relationships. I think it has a really positive message.
And I've spoken to you before about some films that you've done in the past. You are the host of these films as well. Was it great to go and speak to people in the locations that you've been working so hard on?
Definitely. I think I definitely had a few interviews that were very emotional, actually, and I've been researching and sort of taking quite a distant stance, I suppose, quite a detached stance to some of the trades, such as the fishing, and it's very different to be, in one of the episodes I look at Porthleven specifically, and I'm talking about William Sidney Graham, a post-war poet. I was a literature student at university, so I really engaged with this sort of cultural construction of fishing and how he sort of really got involved with the fishing trade and how he epitomised it within his poetry. But then actually going and speaking to a traditional fisherman from Porthleven, sitting down, speaking to him about, well, he's retired now, but speaking about all of the techniques they used to use, and then also this very emotional part of the interview when he actually says it's sad because we don't have these methods anymore. We're not approaching fishing in the same way. This fear that fishing is going to be in Cornwall is going to be dying out in some capacity in this way. It was very, very evocative, and I have to say, it sort of really made me think about these narratives in a completely different way, because it breathes life into them and breathes life into the local churches. The local church there is St. Bartholomew's, which I was exploring with this beautiful brood screen and the carvings on the benches. And so hearing Robert speak to me and hearing his words as I'm looking at those carvings, very nautical carvings, it's extremely emotional.
I'm not sure. And as I say, it's probably for people who regularly go somewhere like that, it's not something you would think about, is it? Because it's just where you go. But when you have someone else like yourself looking, that's when you start to really think about a particular building.
Definitely. I always say, and as you'll know, when we had our last interview about my urban exploring film, I think it's really important to explore the fabric of a building. I often say to a lot of my students, we need to be going into these places, and this whole project was about getting people out of the classroom, getting people, it's important to go through that archival method and approaching archival and ecclesiastical sources in a very academic way, but it's also really important to go and experience the sense of place and distinctiveness that these buildings have, because you perhaps might read on a profile on our website, Llanderwednach Church, it was used because of its geographical location. It could have been used in the past as a landmark for seafarers to get to because of the conditions along that coastline. However, until you go there and you actually see it, you wouldn't be able to understand its place within that community and within that narrative.
Oh, completely. And this event that is being staged on Thursday online is really celebrating the release of your films, but also this whole project as well. I don't expect it was intended to be online, was it? But you're kind of making the best of what you can at the moment.
Of course, and it would have been really lovely to do it in person, but at the same time, I think because the Penryn campus is very remote, sometimes people are put off by actually coming to the event. So in a way, we've actually seen sort of a surge in and an influx in people coming to all of our events online, which has been really great and positive if we're looking at silver linings. So even though I would love to have perhaps done a walk along the coastline and spoken to people and celebrated the project in a really proactive way, I feel like we can still do that, but perhaps to a wider audience and even an international audience, because of course the diaspora and people who are living in California who have been involved with the project and that sort of thing.
Of course. And is anyone able to join in with the event on Thursday?
Of course. So what I would say the best thing is to go onto our website, which is www.cornishmaritimechurches.co.uk. And along the top, you'll see a tab called News. And if you just go on there, you'll see the events page. So it's best really to go onto the event, have a scroll down. You'll also see lots of information about all of our films, where you can go to see them, and I'd say that's probably the best place, because there's a link and it will take you through to Eventbrite where you can register your place on the event.
And it's just a case of people, I think we're all used to it now, aren't we? You get sent the link to be able to join in and everything, and you just have to keep an eye on numbers and all those kind of things. And will people be able to see the films afterwards as well?
Indeed. So our first episode, which is all around folklore and myths and legends and how the Maritime Church sort of helps us to investigate that narrative, that is going to be aired live on the Institute of Cornish Studies YouTube channel, and that's going to be on this Friday at 6:30 p.m. I would say again the best thing is to go onto our website, because on the events page it has all the details there.
And how are you feeling about that? Because you take quite an active role. You do get in the sea, don't you? And it didn't look like it was the warmest weather.
Oh gosh, it wasn't. Actually, my brain was a bit scrambled after that week. We had a very intense week of filming because it was in between two national lockdowns. So we basically had to capture all of the footage in a very intense amount of time to make sure we could do so. So I think that scene, it looks really lovely, and Kyle is very good at making the weather. I don't know, some of his shots look very sort of calming and lovely, but actually it was freezing cold. I think it was around 7 a.m. in the morning at that point. I hadn't even had my morning coffee, and I was jumping into this thrashing sea.
But as I say, so will they be released weekly then, these films?
Yes, indeed. So we have the first episode on this Friday, second episode next Friday, and so forth.
And then they'll be there if people want to watch them as well. And who knows, if this probably only just scratched the surface, hasn't it, of what you could be doing. Is there always hope that you might be able to do a little bit more to this project?
Completely, and we have discussed it, and we think we are treating this project like a pilot project, really. We would love to see it extend to the Celtic peripheries, such as, go forth to Wales, to Ireland, to Scotland, even across the waters of Brittany. So we would love to see this perhaps set an example of how we should be treating maritime churches as an approach to an underserved subject area, definitely.
Oh, well, we wish you the very best of luck with the launch and also with the event on Thursday. So, as you said, CornishMaritimeChurches.co.uk is the best place to go for all of those details for that online event, and then they'll get to see the films. And I've seen the trailer as well, and it does look really exciting as well. I'm looking forward to seeing those. So, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for bearing with me on the technical issues this evening.
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Vicky. Really good to chat to you again.
I'm recording it.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. That is Vicky Jenner, who is the project manager of that 2-year heritage project with the Institute of Cornish Studies, looking into maritime churches. It's just fascinating. Do have a look on the website. I was having a look earlier.
She's quite a big advocate here, isn't she?
One of the things we didn't talk about either is there was a student that's drawn the sketches for an interactive map where you can click on the particular church, find out a little bit about it as well. Just wonderful to think so many young people got involved with this and kind of looking at the place that maritime churches have within the community as well.